Thank you very much, Jadranka, for this dear remembrance of our dear friend John. We all miss him really much. So, as you can see, my name is Iva Grabarić-Andonovski. I'm the editor of Food Technology and Biotechnology Journal from the University of Zagreb and secretary of Croatian Association for Scholarly Communication. And I will be moderating this next session, which consists of a keynote lecture and a panel on small national publishers and journals. My co-moderator is Daniel Namjesnik from Faculty of Science, University of Zagreb, also member of CROASC board, and he will be addressing questions in Q&A section after the lecture and after the panel. So please, if you have any question for our lecturer or our panelists, type them in Q&A screen at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And Daniel will try to address most of them later. And please keep in mind to write to which panelist or lecturer the question is intended for. So I have a great privilege to announce our first keynote at this PubMet 2020. It is esteemed Professor Johan Rooryck from Leiden University in Netherlands. He is a researcher, journal editor, and advocate of for open access champion, to be precise, for Coalition S, and he will give his lecture about Plan S goals and policies. So please, Professor Rooryck, share your screen with us and start your lecture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Jadranka, for this moving tribute to Jon. That was very special. I didn't have the privilege to know him as much as some of you did, but I really appreciate his work, of course. And yeah, I think we have to move things forward, if only in his memory. Let me share my screen with you. I have a presentation about, I always ask, can you see my screen? Is it visible?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Good. So I will talk about Plan S goals and policies. Some of you may already have seen this talk, but I want to give a full overview of what we are doing so that you can also maybe apply this in your country, because I think some of our policies do not require the national funder joining. Actually, universities and other organizations can apply our policies independently of joining. So I think that's an important thing I should stress at the outset. So let me tell you, this is the summary of the talk. I think I'll take about 20 minutes, hopefully. What is Coalition S? Why do we need Plan S? The strong principles that it's based on. Then I'll talk a little bit about the implementation, because there's a lot of policies that need to be implemented. Our 3 routes to compliance. I'll talk about transformative arrangements. Our recent rights retention strategy, which came out on 15th of July and which really deserves some attention and some explanation, I think. How you work with key stakeholders, the other activities that we deploy, and then there will be time for questions and discussions. So what is Coalition S? Coalition S consists of 23 organizations. A lot of national European funders going from Austria all the way to the United Kingdom. We also have a European funder on board, namely the European Commission, and Plan S and Coalition S policies will apply to the full breadth of the Horizon Europe framework, which starts next year. So that's something I should insist on. Then we also have on board charitable foundations, such as the Wellcome Trust and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and some other foundations that will join us soon. So watch this space, I would say. There's also a global dimension. We have the World Health Organization on board, Jordan, Zambia, South Africa, Medical Research Council, African Academy of Sciences. We work together, of course, with other organizations that are promoting open access in this space. America, Cielo, African Open Science Platform, OA 2020, the organization in Germany that promotes transformative agreements. And we have coordinated action with the Confederation of Open Access Repositories, especially in light of our rights retention strategy. So that is us. Was Plan S devised? Well, it is very simply because research organizations in Plan S want better return on their investment. They want to accelerate science to make research results immediately available to the largest possible audience. They want greater transparency in research communication, available, not just available articles, but also available data, of course. They want a cost-effective transition from the unsustainable subscription model to the open access model. I mean, subscriptions should simply not exist. I mean, we want open access and we want it now. More specifically, funding organizations are in a very special position here because they can use their money to drive change in the system, and that is what they're doing. They use their funding to drive academic publishing towards full and immediate open access from the subscription system. From the point of view of a researcher, why should you publish in open access? This is something that is not always insisted enough upon. Researchers often think in terms of the prestige of the journal in which they publish rather than in terms of who will be reading me. And there's this interesting article by Pivovar and colleagues that show that in 2019, 31% of all articles are available open access, and 52% of views of articles are to open access articles. And they estimate that by 2025, which for young researchers, basically tomorrow, it's the article that they are writing now, 44% of all articles will be available open access, but fully 70% of article views will be to open access articles. That means effectively that if you still want to publish in a subscription journal and behind a paywall, your article will disappear into what one might call the dark web. You might as well be publishing there. It will not be visible. And you want your research to be visible. So that's a reason, I think, for research, why researchers should privilege publication in open access over publication in a high-profile subscription journal. Analysis is based on strong principles, namely the idea that research results are a public good, should be immediately available to accelerate science. That means a lot of no's. No to paywall publications, no to embargo periods, no to copyright transfer. Publications should be under a CC BY license for us by default. And no to the hybrid model of publication, because the hybrid model of publication originally 20 years ago promised to be the transition towards open access. We have not seen that. The amount of publications in hybrid open access journals has remained the same for the last 10 years. This is not the promised transition to open access that we were all expecting. And then I'm not even talking about all the problems with double dipping that result from hybrid journals. So hybrid journals are also only allowed within Plan S in a transitional arrangement with a defined endpoint, of which I will say something in a minute. There's also some positive news. There's things that we want that I think are positive. Pricing contracts and publication fees should be transparent. Funders commit to paying for publication fees when necessary. Individual researchers do not pay. It's never the intention that somebody pays an open access fee out of their salary. That's an important principle, I believe. We have now multiple roads to open access compliance, and we also have a commitment to change the evaluation system, the rewards and evaluation system on the basis of DORA. So the funders commit to evaluating applicants for funding on the basis of the intrinsic merit of the publication and not on the impact factor or other quantitative metrics that do not say anything about the quality of the research. So those are our main principles. The implementation of Plan S will begin soon. This will be applied to publication from calls published as of 1st January 2021. In certain cases, as for Wellcome, for instance, it will also apply to submissions from 2021, even from existing grants. Transformative arrangements, as we call them, will be supported until the end of 2024. We put a deadline there for the publishers because we want to help them transition on a fast track to open access. The goal, and this is something that is very much misunderstood about Plan S, and many people say Plan S only will prevent you to publish in your journal of choice. Well, that is not true. And I want to say this very explicitly. We provide routes that allow all Coalition S grant holders to publish open access in any journal of their choice. There's just a number of conditions that need to be fulfilled in order to do that. So that means that we have 3 routes to compliance. One is full open access journals and platforms. The other one is the repository route via the rights retention strategy. And then finally, we have transformative arrangements. Let me say a little bit more about each. The first route, of course, is simple. That's the gold and diamond route. If you publish in an open access journal, then coalition funders will financially support publication fees for the author. The green route is a little bit more complicated. That's for subscription journals. Authors can publish in a subscription journal. That is completely allowed. There is only one condition, namely, the author should make the version of record or the author accepted manuscript instantly available in the repository. And of course, coalition as funders do not contribute to that, because in that case, the article is already paid for via the subscription that is charged by the publisher. Finally, we have the transformative route. Transformative route applies to hybrid and subscription journals. Authors can publish in the journal if that journal is under a transformative arrangement. That means that either the journal is under a transformative agreement or it is a transformative journal. And in those cases, coalition as funders can financially support open access fees in this journal. Of course, only if that journal is not already being paid for by the national consortium that is running the transformative agreement. So those are our 3 routes. Now, this may seem complicated for an author. That's why we are developing a journal checker tool, namely because we think that our authors should be able to check how their favorite journal complies with coalition X requirements. And that journal checker tool will allow researchers to identify these journals that enable compliance. Basically, what the researchers will do is type in the university they work at, the funder that they are funded by, and their favorite journal. And then a window will pop up saying what they should do, whether they should pay a fee, or whether their funder should pay a fee rather, or whether the article is under a transformative agreement, whether the journal is under a transformative agreement, or whether they should deposit a copy in a repository. That's the kind of information that will be provided. Work has started on this. This will be available on the 1st of 2021. And initial focus, of course, will be on the journals that offer a route to compliance, that offer CC BY options, and that allow authors to retain copyright, because that is important to us. For the implementation, it is important to note that we support a variety of transformative arrangements. So transformative, first of all, transformative agreements. I think most of you know what transformative agreement is, but let me state it again. It's a contract between library consortia and publishers that converts current subscription costs to open access publishing costs. So these are known as publish and read or read and publish deals. Or there is an organization in Germany, the organization in Germany, PUBMET2020, of course, promotes these transformative agreements to accelerate the transition to open access. And we also support their strategy in this. They aim, in principle, for cost-neutral transformative agreement. That is, namely, that the subscription should be converted to publish and read without additional costs. That is the ideal. And we recommend fully transparent transformative agreements in collaboration with national funders. So we think that transformative agreements should be fully accessible for everybody to read, so that we know what the costs are, and that experience can be exchanged across consortia to negotiate better transformative deals with the funders. We also have a way forward for societies. As you know, there's many societies, scientific societies, scholarly societies that have their own journals. And for this purpose, we have developed a model agreement kit that allows societies can use to do something similar to transformative agreement, namely what we call a transformative model agreement. Societies can use this to going forward. It simply means that libraries can agree to continue paying their old subscription in exchange for immediate open access of all the journal content. So, and this is a APC-free route. It's a little bit like subscribe to open. And the Microbiology Society is negotiating a TMA for its 6 journals with the help of JISC in the UK. And you can find more information about this here. I will share the slides later, so you will be able to access them and to go to the various links and visit the various links when you want to. So that's the second model that we support for journals to move towards open access in the transition. Finally, we have the transformative journal route, and the transformative journal route is really one of our main ways to encourage publishers to move towards open access in an accelerated way. It's especially for hybrid journals. So basically what we say there is, look, we are willing to support your journal if you can promise us and show us that year on year, your open access content increases with 5% in absolute terms and 15% in relative terms year on year. And also subscription costs, of course, then have to decrease as income from open access increases, no double payments. And there has to be also a firm commitment to transition to open access, and no later than 75% of the research content is published open access. Then the journal has to fully convert to open access. And interestingly, on April 2020, Springer Nature adopted this transformative journal framework for most, if not all, of their journals. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the future. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the rights retention strategy. That is the middle green pillar of my slide just before. Namely, how does a researcher deposit a version of their article in an open access repository? Because this is what we want. This is also what funders now are going to require via their grant agreement. Namely, when a grantee signs a contract with a coalition as funder, they're going to have to commit to publish all of their articles in open access with a CC BY license and with zero embargo. So how does that work? Because researchers will also be asked to sign a publishing agreement that gives away their right? That is what publishers ask. So basically there is a contradiction between the researcher's grant agreement contract on the one hand and the publishing agreement on the other. And we, of course, do not want authors to be in the middle and to be in this contradiction. And that's why we have developed the rights retention strategy, which is aimed at resolving this contradiction. So what we will do is the following. There's 3 steps that we have in mind. We will update the grant conditions and notify the beneficiaries. We will notify the publishers that these changes apply. And we will require beneficiaries to include details of the public license, the CC BY license, in their submission. So how does it work? Coalition organizations change their grant conditions, and those grant conditions will now stipulate that grant holders will have to apply a public copyright license, CC BY or CC BY MD, to all their future author accepted manuscripts, They will have to specify that license when they submit to a journal. That will have to be specified in the article. And finally, they will have to make the author accepted manuscript that arises from the submission available in an open access repository of their choice at the time of publication. So all of this, I'm insisting, applies only if an author wants to publish in a subscription journal or in a hybrid journal. That is when this applies. You have a right to publish there, but only these conditions apply. You have to deposit the AAM in a repository. Now, the second step was that informing publishers. We contacted 150 publishers who collectively publish most of our research. We have been running webinars, at least 5 now. We talk to publisher trade bodies and work to communicate this approach so that they are notified. And we invite publishers to respond with a choice of 5 options, how they will deal with these author accepted manuscripts. So we basically ask them very nicely whether they will allow authors to share their author accepted manuscript in a repository, or whether they will simply refuse articles from these authors, which seems very unlikely to me, but still, that's their right, that is in there. And very importantly, this information will of course be incorporated in the journal checker tool, so that an author can know what they have to do when they wish to publish in such a journal. Finally, there's a step 3, namely we will provide templated language for this. We will ask our authors not just to mention the grant number of their funder anymore, as used to be the case in the past, but we will ask them to add 25 words. namely for the purpose of open access, the author has applied the CC BY license to any author accepted manuscript that arises from this submission. How does this work? Why all this rigmarole, you will ask? Well, this is to establish legal precedents. Basically, we have been assured by our lawyers that a public license CC BY requirement in the grant agreement with the coalition as funder takes legal precedent over any later copyright agreement with the publisher, and the publisher has to respect that. And this is why I say that this policy is not just applicable by funders. It's perfectly applicable as well by any university with respect to their researchers. Universities can apply this policy as well. In most countries, this aspect of legal precedence is part of contract law. So this is something that is perfectly applicable in any country. Moreover, it doesn't cost you a thing. It only costs you the continued payment for subscriptions if you wish to do that. But the article will be available in a repository, and we have assurances from COAR that all the open access repositories are compatible with these requirements and are ready to receive these articles. We also work, of course, with key stakeholders. We work with researchers groups. We have a network of ambassadors who relay their concerns to us, the concerns from the research community, and they work with us towards that. We also work with early career researchers. We have established a task force to see how our policies impact young career researchers. They are here, and the four organizations that we work with are represented on this slide. We also work, of course, with publishers. We are in active discussions with Springer Nature and with other publishers to see how we move forward. For instance, we had discussion with them about the transformative journal framework. And finally, and then let me talk a little bit about other activities that we are undertaking. We want the prices to be transparent, as you know. We want to make these prices more transparent to build confidence among stakeholders that prices are fair and reasonable. As you know, that confidence no longer exists between stakeholders for the last 20 years, with publishers making unreasonable profits, with APCs being completely intransparent. You don't know what you get for an APC. And so that's why Coalition has recently announced their price transparency requirements. And we have also committed ourselves to no longer pay for to those publishers that will not have announced their price transparency requirements as of July 22. How does this look? Well, we have two approved price breakdown frameworks. So we want an APC to be broken down in specific prices that are specifically priced separately. We have the breakdown of publication services and fees that is developed by the Fair Open Access Alliance. I will show you a little bit more about that. That has been implemented by a number of publishers. And we have the Plan S price and transparency framework that was developed independently by Information Power, which goes into more detail. The one from the Fair Open Access Alliance is a little bit more general, but we wanted two frameworks to allow publishers to adapt gradually to this new world where, oh my God, they will have to give insight into the price breakdown of the services that they charge, which is completely normal, by the way, if you go to your local car mechanic to have your car repaired, or when you go to have a haircut, where services are specified, but which is not the case in the publishing industry. This is what such a breakdown looks like for the Fair Open Access Alliance, for instance. So these are the service buckets, are different service buckets that need to be priced independently. So you can also compare across publishers what they charge. And many publishers have actually communicated to us that they find this a very interesting exercise, because it gives them insight in how their own monies and prices and costs are allocated. We also have a number of other activities that were already touched upon yesterday. Namely, we have launched a study into diamond journals, because diamond journals very often do not rely on per unit payments. And the problem for funders is very often that they like per unit payments, because for a funder, a funder who gives funds to a researcher can say, look, you have a special a special item in your budget for open access payments, use it, report back to us, and then the per unit payment is done. But for funders, it's really difficult to support diamond journals that do not rely on these per unit payments. So that's why we have launched this tender for a study with an analysis of the global landscape, and a consortium led by Operas, and Pierre already talked about this a little bit, and Vanessa as well. Yesterday, a consortium led by Operas was selected to carry out that study, and an initial survey was filled out by 1,900 diamond journals, and we expect a full report by December 2020 to see how we can move forward in this space. Now, to conclude my talk, about 20 minutes, I want to say that PlanS, of course, is part of a wider open access, open science movement, not just open access. And we look to accelerate the transition to provide research results in open access, because we believe that articles really also are the portal to other open things, to open data, and to open practices more generally. And to fully deliver on that ambition, of course, we need a global coalition of all stakeholders, and all stakeholders really means not just the funders, but also universities, researchers, and also publishers. We want to work together. We don't think there is one single magic bullet that will lead us to open access. We think that there are various ways and various policies that are necessary to move finally in an accelerated time frame to open access, and that is what we want to realize. Thank you. I will stop here and give you some time for questions.
So thank you very much, Professor Rooryck, for explaining us recommendations of Coalition S. And I see that there are many questions, so I will ask Daniel to address some of them to you. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you. There are a few long questions and a few short. I'll start with short. What is your angle on C-Hub provider? Is there C-Hub, Sci-Hub? Is there anything you can say about it?
Well, no, I can't.
It's a big elephant in the room. Big white elephant.
Well, it is one of those services that nobody is supposed to use, but that everybody does use, yes, of course.
Exactly.
But we have no official position about that, other than that we think that we believe that we should work with the publishers towards a solution for open access. Also, but of course, if the publishers do not want to work with us, then we will have to take other measures. I don't think that I think cyber is an interesting initiative, but I don't think that it is sustainable in the long run. After all, publishing does cost money. There is a cost. I am very intimately convinced that that cost is not what publishers are charging now. But we have to move. We have to move. But I think Sci-Hub is a symptom of a problem, and the symptom of the problem is that there is a lack of confidence currently in the traditional academic publishers. I think we need. Publishers have a very large responsibility in reestablishing that confidence with us, and we have developed policies that allow that confidence to be reestablished. But of course, they have to agree to work with us. Some of them do, not all of them do so yet. Okay. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. I believe yes. I believe yes. Okay, there is one longer question. I'll try to shorten it a bit. It's from Finland, and the participant would like to send a strong message on behalf of small non-profit peer-reviewed scholarly journals. There are plenty of those which depend on fees. And what is the stand of Coalition S about this? About small journals which are non-profit and not part of the large publishers? They are losing money, which is. I believe means losing 500 euros, for example, might mean more than 10% of the budget.
But what exactly means it? It doesn't mean that they lose 500 euros.
Yes, I'm not sure.
That I understand. Oh, for the requirements of journals. Yes. Well, I mean, I think I personally, I mean, I have had this question before, and I'm going to answer you very honestly. I think if your journal does not currently comply with the requirements of that we have, the technical requirements that we have, the journal has a real problem. I mean, the only thing that we are asking is that there is long-term preservation and that there is DOIs. This is not an unreasonable question. If you have a journal, if you take on the responsibility of publishing a journal, you also take on the responsibility of preserving that journal for the future. If your financial model that you're using for that journal does not support that, well, that is something that you need to address. It's not Coalition S's problem. We want to sustain these. We want to help these journals. That's why we have also launched the Diamond initiative. But what my impression is, and look, I'm a publisher. I'm an editor of the Diamond Journal myself. What you see is a lack of organization of the Diamond landscape. What we see is a lot of journals that each are working very hard in their corner to make their journal viable. But there is a lack of coordination. There's a lack of shared expertise that should be there, and that is something I think that needs attention. And that is why we have announced that's why we launched this study, to get better insight into how that works, and also to see how we can help these journals become more sustainable. But I think it's a little bit strange to say, well, Coalition ESC is asking these requirements, so now you automatically have to help us. No, I mean, I think we all have a responsibility to think very carefully about what it means to be responsible for an open access journal in terms of long-term preservation. Before we had paper as a long-term preservation option. We don't have that option anymore. So there has to be something in terms of DOI or in terms of clocks or portico or other long-term sustainable solutions. That may need attention on the national level. It may need attention on the international level. I'm certainly willing to look into that, but it's not as if, you know, there is a magical bucket of money available to solve every problem in academic publishing tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I believe we have time for two more questions. One is about predatory journals. Do you have any plans or attempt to deal with this problem?
I know this is maybe not okay. My own view on predatory journals is that it is largely a problem that does not exist. My short and sort of flippant answer to that is, if you cannot recognize a predatory journal, you're not a good scientist.
Yes.
That is my short and brief view on this. The longer view is, of course, well, I think predatory journals can be easily rooted out by the measures that we've taken in Coalition S. For instance, journals have to be, open access journals have to be DOAJ approved. Obviously, also our journal checker tool will root out these predatory journals. So I do think that a number of measures and a number of tools will be available to root out these predatory journals in a more formal fashion.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question about the licensing. Are you considering to extend the license requirements apart from the fundamental CC-BY?
No, we are not.
Okay. Okay.
That's a very short answer. We are not.
Yes.
It's CC-BY or CC-BY-ND, and that is it.
Okay.
Because we think that those afford sufficient protection both for the authors and for the people who want to reuse that information.
Okay. Thank you. That is all. We don't have any more questions.
Daniel, may I just jump in with I think
for one question.
I have very important question.
Good.
So Johan, you mentioned that, yes, I can agree with you that sustainability of the local journals should be solved, and the government in countries, for example, like Croatia, should take care about their open access journals, and also institutions should take care. But I couldn't agree that this is not a Coalition S problem, because Coalition S is taking care about sustainability of the big publishers. So also a huge amount of money is transferred to big publishers, to APCs, for journals created through research grants of European Commission project, etc. So it's a lot of money is here actually, which is systematically flowing towards big publishers. So
I couldn't agree more, Jadranka. I couldn't agree more, and exactly that is why we launched this study, to see how we can support these journals. I mean, I really hope that something will come out of this. I mean, we had 1,900 journals responding. This study also looks into their financial sustainability. I do think we will come up with some solution. It may not be a solution for everything, but we will have to wait for the results of the study that Pierre is leading with a lot of effort from various partners, and we will see what comes out of that, and certainly try to address the problem as much as we can. Because obviously, for instance, also I think in this space, I think Finland has a different problem from Croatia, right? If only because Finland is a vastly richer country. So all of these solutions should be adapted to the local situation. We have to really see what is possible. But I agree with you that we need to collectively think much harder about the sustainable future of these diamond journals. I mean,
and just to take care that
that is where my heart lies.
Yes, that the money should be much more fair distributed. The money of European Commission and yes, different kind should not. The whole money should not go to big publishers, but should be.
But that is I think also where our price transparency framework will help. Yeah. I mean, once that ensures that there is more competition in the marketplace, prices start going down, that money that becomes available can be used much more fairly across the system. I mean, if planners and coalitioners really want to work towards a more fair system, only you can't do it from one day to the next. It really is something that has to be spread over a number of years. And for instance, simply having an overview of diamond journals and what their problems are in various regions of the world, that alone is already a very big undertaking.
Yes, they have main single problem. They cannot put a price structure on their website because they are not charging. So that's their main problem. So yeah.
Yes, but again, that is something that I think could be addressed. There are solutions for that.
So
yes, I hope.
Thank you very much. I have to interfere a bit because we are having a tight plan today. So thank you very much for your questions, and especially Professor Rooryck for his answers. And I'm inviting you to also participate in our panel if you feel that you can add something